All right, guys, welcome to the next video of understanding prompting. So we've given you a starting point, the CGS framework that you can use to pull these ideas you have that you want AI's help with. You get these ideas you have in your brain. CGS framework serves to help pull those ideas out of your brain and get them onto paper, get them into that input box with ChatGPT. So maybe you have an idea of what you'd like help with, but you don't know where to start. That context, goal, and specificity serves as kind of 3 reminders of some of the more important parts that you should include and get that idea to paper so that you can have AI help you transmit that information. So we've gone over some examples of CGS inside of multiple prompts and how those look in between different things you might be asking AI help on. And we've also covered what those prompts look like between different large language models and how the outputs differ between them. And you've had the chance to go into these tools and mess around yourself, testing out the CGS, hopefully, which brings me to my first point. If you want to master these tools and you truly want to begin getting the most out of them, you have to pause these videos. You have to open up that tab and you have to get in here and start messing around and failing. You could buy lists of hundreds of prompts, thousands of prompts, and you can watch videos of other people doing really cool stuff with AI. But until you open that tab and you start messing around with these tools, you're truly not going to learn how to get the most out of them. You have to be messing around, finding out what their limitations are, what their capabilities are, how to manipulate them to their maximum potential, and also what your limitations are in terms of using these tools. Maybe you are really good at conveying your goal and what you want out of these platforms, but you struggle with providing enough context to get that really tailored result. Or maybe you're a gangster at providing context and it knows how to speak like you and provide that output, but it's not conveying that goal properly, and you need to work on that specificity and providing more specific details. Until you go out there and really mess around with these tools and apply these tactics video per video, you're not going to really start to see the benefit of these tools. All right, so we're going to be talking in this video about prompt refining and how to take that idea, apply CGS, but also how to tailor it even further and how to provide more information on truly giving ChatGPT and Jarvis AI and Bing AI everything that it could possibly need to give you the best outputs possible. All right, so we're going to be looking at page 11 if you're referencing our document where we talk about target audience, using concise and clear language, and also a process to refine your prompts. If you're out here putting out information but you're just not getting the exact thing you're looking for, that's what we're going to be diving into. So starting off with target audience. When we're using tools like ChatGPT and other large language models, it's most likely typically going to be for creating content for others to consume, whether it's emails, landing pages, ad copy, whatever, right? What that looks like is knowing who you're speaking to first and foremost. By understanding that target audience, you can take those pain points, you can take those demographics of people and the solution that you know they need and implement that information into your prompts in regards to context, specificity, in order to get those really powerful outputs. So in this example, we'll be writing an email and we're going to be targeting people that want to buy this AI course. We'll be writing an email to them. Let's practice using this target audience information to take that and implement it into our prompts. We're going to be writing an email for people interested in this course, and I also want to tell an entertaining story inside of the email as well to make it a bit more engaging. First is the pain points, right? If we're writing an email to somebody that's interested in this course, then they've got a little bit of FOMO in terms of AI. They feel like they're missing out and they didn't catch the train and it's moving on without them. So that's something that we can implement and give ChatGPT context on so that it can use it for the prompts. And they also probably struggle with using these tools to their maximum capabilities too. Maybe they hop in here, they have a quick little conversation, they ask for a workout plan or a recipe, and the stuff they've been getting is cool, but they really don't know how to implement it into their workflow. That's another pain point that we could touch on. With that being said, I'll feed that into ChatGPT and I'll also throw in something about creating a story within the email as well and ending it with a CTA. All right, so let's walk you through some of the prompts that I have set up here, and I'll explain how I got the email, and we'll get to the email in a second. So I started off and I've got a little advanced technique. I don't know if you could call it advanced. I like to think of it as advanced because it gets ChatGPT to shut up and just intake more information before it gives you its output. I've created a course that teaches people everything about the most popular AI tools available to the public right now, from understanding the basics to applying advanced tactics so they can begin to utilize these tools into their existing workflow inside of their business. All context, pain points points for my target audience, FOMO on AI technology, being so busy, being overwhelmed by which one they should use. That's all context. Now, if you notice, I also ended this first prompt with nothing except respond with okay if you understand. So that was its goal. And I'm using GPT-4 in this instance because when I'm separating information, especially if you have a pretty complex task, if you send your context in with separate messages and you end these messages with respond with nothing except okay if you understand, you're making your information a bit more digestible rather than sending it inside of one giant 5-page prompt. You're separating it and telling it, hey, here's part 1, respond okay. Here's part 2, respond okay. Now it's digesting all of this information so that when you finally give it that actual goal, it's going to be able to take from my experience all of this context a little bit better and then provide you that more specified output. So it said okay, and then I said, I want your help crafting an email targeting my ideal avatar. The newsletter should entice readers to visit my website for more info. The email will end with a relevant and creative CTA that ties in the purpose of the email. I also want to tell a story inside of my email. So now we've got like a 2-part goal, right? The story is of a person named Chad who felt overwhelmed by all these new tools, but found our course, a little spelling mistake, and knew exactly what we were talking about though, and lived happily ever after. Use the perspective of an expert copywriter and marketer. The story should sound like it was written by Dr. Seuss. Help me craft this email, make it informative and engaging, and use information from my course to speak to my target avatar. So we've got sort of 3-part goal here. I want your help crafting an email targeting my ideal avatar. It already knows who that is because I've separated that context in a separate prompt and let it digest that. The second part of the goal is I want to tell a story inside of this email. And then I've applied a bit of specificity inside of the goal by saying make it informative, make it sound like Dr. Seuss. And as you can see, it wrote it in email format with the subject line and the body separated. Don't be a Chad, tame the AI beast with our whimsical course. Dear X, once upon a Seussian land, there lived a fellow named Chad who felt overwhelmed and sad with every new AI fad. He wished to learn all the tricks and tips, but time was not his friend. With so many tools, where to begin? His confusion never seemed to end. One day while scrolling, feeling blue, he stumbled upon a site so grand, a course that promised to understand the AI world and lend a hand. Scrolling down a bit, now Chad no longer worries, for he has conquered the AI beast. His business flourishes and grows, to say the least. Chad's story could be yours if you're willing to embark on our AI adventure, a journey that will ignite a spark. So don't delay, seize the day, and join the AI bandwagon. Visit our website now and let your curiosity fasten. Discover the course that made Chad's life ever so bright. Embrace the AI revolution and take flight. And then we've got our little CTA here. Click your hat and join the extravaganza, your best, etc., etc. Not bad. Very entertaining story. It ties in those pain points from our ideal avatar. It tells a fun little story, and we've got it to include a CTA. Now, is this the perfect, most beautiful, most poetic piece of literature I've ever seen in my entire life? No. This is a great starting point, though, if you were like, man, I wish I could tell a story that was fun and entertaining, and I also want to speak to my ideal avatar, but I just don't know how to do it. You've got ChatGPT here. By using that target audience, we know who we're speaking to. We give it that context of their pain points. We know that our solution will solve that for them. We feed it into ChatGPT, let it digest it, and then we also provide that goal using the CGS framework. Now we can start to craft really tailored, precise, honestly kind of funny and entertaining responses like this, right? Now, if you'll notice, we've talked about target audience, we've talked about CGS. Now, let's talk about the concise language inside of our document. There's nothing in here that's super complex, right? Like I'm not going to a thesaurus and swapping out every word so I can sound like the most profound English writer ever to be born. Hey, I created a course. It teaches people this. Here's my pain points. Respond with this if you understand. It responds. Okay, I want your help crafting an email. It should entice readers to visit my website. That's exactly what we want. And it's going to end with a CTA. I want to tell a story. It should be about this person. They feel overwhelmed. It's the pain points of my ideal avatar. Use this perspective, expert copywriter. The story should sound like Dr. Seuss. So as you can see, just to get on a little bit of a tangent, there's a lot of details in terms of the instructions. And this is one example of where I think GPT-4 really outshines 3.5 because it did a great job at taking all of the information and all of my requests and providing a pretty quality output. I think 3.5 would have struggled a little bit more, but besides the point, getting back to the concise language, right? There's nothing here that's truly super confusing. I'm giving it clear instructions. I'm not using fancy language. I'm talking to it like I would an assistant or somebody I needed help with, just another person. Help me craft this email, make it informative and engaging. And of course, use information from the course to speak to that target avatar. So you don't need to go overboard with complex language. If you've got a really simple task, if you want to make 10 headlines, if you want to create a variation of ads, then tell it to create variations. You don't always have to use the most complex words in the English language, right? Which should serve as a reminder that CGS framework is a starting point. It's not a law. You can create some super powerful outputs by not following CGS, and you can also end up with some shitty results if you do use CGS. So keep that in mind when crafting your prompts. So now let's talk a little bit about the prompt refining process, right? Let's say this was okay, but we wanted it to be a bit more informational. Well, ChatGPT did its best in terms of including information that we gave it. And so if we wanted to refine this, let's look at the flowchart from our PDF that we all have access to, and that would be page 15. So the process is start with a simple prompt, evaluate the output, see if you like it or not, refine the prompt, maybe change some context, add a little bit of context. If you see that it's pulling a little bit too much information from a specific point in your context, maybe take a little bit of context out and then test different versions of your prompt. So for this, let's say we wanted to include more information about the course and we thought it sounded a bit generic. Well, in order for ChatGPT to understand that, we're going to have to provide it that information. As you can see, this was the original email that it gave us, and in a separate message I just said information to include : line break and shift spacebar if you guys are wondering how to line break. My course focuses on the basics of prompt engineering, prompt mastery, and we go over ChatGPT and Midjourney to name a couple of tools. Using this specific information, rewrite this email using the same tone, voice, and expertise. So I provided it a little bit more context and explicit instructions. Hey, this is what you need to take into account as we revise this prompt. So now it's going to take this information, rewrite this email. But I also want you to keep that marketing perspective, keep that expert copywriter perspective, and use the same tone and voice as that Dr. Seuss character. So as you can see, we gave it a bit more context, re-gave it some instructions, and also provided some specificity. And here we go. In a land where AI tools reign, there dwelt a man named Chad. Baffled and bewildered with his business, he grew sad. As Chad wandered through the digital woods, he found a core so grand, a beacon of hope, a guiding light to help him understand. This is beautiful. This is actually so funny, and I love it. I think this does a little bit better. As you can see, it definitely provided that information. Now it's specifically talking about ChatGPT, talking about Midjourney. It did a pretty good job. Now, quick note, arguably, this may not be a CTA. Maybe this is just how it signed the email. So this is a great example of sometimes you don't get the most perfect output and it forgets something in your instructions. If you remember from our first prompt, I said to include a CTA, blast off on your AI Odyssey. It doesn't rhyme with anything in the poem. It's attempt at a CTA, but you will get those prompts where you're like, wait a minute, you forgot this. And that just goes to show we're very early on in this technology. These tools aren't perfect and they're not going to convey everything as exactly as you would wanted, which is why it's important to take these concepts, open up that tab, go in, mess around, use these frameworks to get the idea from your brain onto the prompt and learn their limitations, learn what they're good at, learn what they're bad at, and where you need to improve so that you can close the gap between having an idea and having it help you. I hope you guys found this video useful. So now we've talked about CGS, basics of prompting, and then some methods to help get that idea out of your brain even more and put it inside of a prompt, and also some methods on refining your prompt and giving it iterations so that we can get to that final result. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.